What's going on, everybody? My name is Arrow. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to bring you some exciting Graft tech, some that is specific to Ice Shot and similar builds, but some that is just generically incredibly powerful. This is going to be a quick one. Let's get in. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the specific one for my Ice Shot of Penetration build. This really can be used with any build that can work with a tornado. Now, I am pretty sure that this setup is probably a bug, but for now we're going to call it a clever use of intended game mechanics. So here we have Dance in the White. I've been using the Tornado all league in this build because it does pretty nice single target, also helps with your clear, and just an overall good damage boost. I never use the Dance in the White creates an additional tornado mod that can appear as a suffix on this graft because the damage bonus that you get from it didn't seem worth it. It seemed like a better clearing option, which I don't really need on Ice Shot Penetration. However, with some thorough testing, it seems to be the case that the +1 mod on this graft also applies to our tornado that we cast with Cast on Crit. Ice Shot of Pen uses the tornado in order to get more overlapping return hits. Getting another tornado would be a huge damage increase. So what happens when you equip a Dance in the White Squalling Tool Graft with +1 tornado on it is you can use 2 tornadoes. Now I will demonstrate this by just taking out the Cast on Crit and Mana Forge setup. Just throw my tornado on here and you can see we get 2 separate tornadoes that fly off in different directions. Often they will chase enemies, but I have also tested thoroughly both of these tornadoes can be interacted with. My next problem was going to be, all right, is this going to be an issue if I ever use the graft? And it turns out you can have 4 total tornadoes up. So what does this mean in practice? Big shout out to my buddy If and Jeff, who's my on-staff mathematics guy. He's estimating roughly between 42 and 52% more damage on single targets based on whether or not you're getting an additional 2 or 3 overlaps. That's going to depend on the size of the arena, how much projectile speed you have, meaning the more you have, the worse it is. But you can definitely expect to get at least 2. So roughly 50% more damage from the Dance in the White. And you can use this in other builds. This is not just for Ice Op. Anything that uses a tornado to create additional projectiles, additional splits or chains or anything can get a second tornado that is cast at the same time by using this graft. So because I swapped off of the Breach Lord bloodline because I was no longer using 2 damaging grafts, I decided to look for the most defensive setup I could get out of a graft. So we decided to use the Molten Zoff graft. Shout out to my buddy Fred for the tech on this. What Molten Zoff graft does is it gives you a Molten Shell style buff that lasts a certain amount of time, takes 80% of damage from hits until the buff expires. It is possible to get 2 cooldown recovery rates on this and give yourself insane uptime. The only requirement is that you're not at full life, which for us is no big deal. Every time we proc our Mana Forge, which is over twice per second, we spend a little bit of life with our life tap support. And as you can see, the buff has gone off. So we've gained an extra 3,200 life that will last a certain number of seconds. And you can see here, we'll click, 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 and then it comes back up. It's roughly 3.5 seconds of downtime. To be honest, I don't fully understand the math of why 72% CDR leaves me with a 3.5 second cooldown. I'm not sure if something else is affecting this. And my buddy Fred also had me come into a temp chains map, which somehow lowers the cooldown yet again. In a temporal chains map, the cooldown of this goes under 2 seconds, and I don't fully understand why. So if you know anything about this, say something in the comments below, and if you're right, I'll pin your response. However, it's not just really good uptime of this that we're looking for. Think of something like Steel Skin. Steel Skin has a roughly 2.25 second duration with a more duration support. Without this support, it takes us down to 1.5 seconds. That's the base duration, and a cooldown of over 2.5 seconds with us having a little bit of CDR in the build. That uptime is pretty rough, and on automation, it just feels like a coin flip whether or not you're actually going to get use out of it. However, automation Steel Skin, and I imagine automation any other guard skill, functions differently when you're using this new graft. It seems to be the case that Heart of Flame will regenerate its cooldown while Steel Skin is up, but Steel Skin does not regenerate its cooldown while Heart of Flame is up, and we can demonstrate that by going into a zone that I can actually be damaged. So as you can see here, our Steel Skin gets used. I only have a level 1 in right now because I'm just doing some testing, but a level 1 with 23 quality will go off, give us a couple of seconds, and then be on cooldown for a couple of seconds. This is pretty low uptime. However, when it is cooling down, if I press this, it freezes the cooldown of Steel Skin. However, notice that when this gets to 0, we can immediately use our Steel Skin, and then this is immediately back up afterwards. As long as we're continuing to spend life, which we always are, the uptime is almost 100%. Basically, you have a situation where the Steel Skin is waiting to go off as soon as the Heart of Flame is done, and while the Steel Skin is on, the Heart of Flame is generating its cooldown back, allowing you to use it immediately after Steel Skin. So, of course, this is a level 1, so the amount of protection that I'm getting is very low, but you can level this up as high as you desire or as much strength as you have. This is going to give you like a 90% uptime of a pretty large defensive boost. On a build like this, that very rarely gets hit, but when it does, it's dangerous. This defensive layer will make you feel incredibly tanky. All you need to make this work is a 20 quality steel skin and a Molten Zoff Graft with as much CDR as you can get. Now, here comes the downside. I don't think I'm the first person to realize that the Molten Zoff Graft is strong, so these are quite expensive. 72% CDR was the highest I could find, and it cost me 20 divines. But the truth is, even with a much lower rate of cooldown, you can spend a divine or two and still have very, very high uptime of both of these steel skin and the Zoff Graft. So I am just about done with my Ice Shot Penetration build. I highly recommend that you put both of these things into it if you are playing it. My final planner will be down in the description so you can see my build. I'm currently playing a max evade and spell dodge version that I don't necessarily recommend, but it does feel really nice with this tech. So if you want to do what I'm doing, you can follow this tech. But if you're using the lightning coil version, it's very, very strong. And once you get to the end game, you kind of have to tailor your build anyway for the content that you want to do. So if you feel like you're dying to something in particular, you can change the build to make it better for that particular thing. So I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you stop by my Twitch, drop that Twitch Prime, twitch.tv/AER0__. I'll be live right after this video, and I look forward to seeing you over there. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, take care.